Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Visual Arts Tuesday with the Whatcom Arts Project. My name is Tami Landis, and I am the museum educator at the Western Gallery. I am also an instructor of art history at Western Washington University. It is great to be with you all today, and the Western Gallery is so pleased to be a part of the Whatcom Arts Project. So occasionally we will be giving some content for diverse ages, different audiences. In most cases, we'll be looking at middle school to high school to adult, as I hope to create places of engagement and discussion as we all are processing what's going on today and how can we further process that by looking at what artists have been making even before this crisis hit. And that's exactly what I want to get to today. So a little bit about the Western Gallery. On campus, the Western Gallery features 5 to 6 temporary art exhibitions a year, annually, concentrating on national and international art. The gallery has a large exhibition space in a wing of the Fine Arts Building. We also oversee the university campus outdoor sculpture collection. Today, I am going to briefly walk you through our current exhibition, Knowledge Bennett, Road to Damascus. Road to Damascus is a comprehensive survey of LA-based artist and gallery owner, Knowledge Bennett. This is his collection of his most significant bodies of work. So a retrospective is a comprehensive survey of one artist's work. So the only work that you see in the gallery are work by Knowledge Bennett. This exhibition features select works from 7 different series made between 2012 and 2019. And presented alongside some of these works, Knowledge decided to include some works from the Western Gallery's collection, including the work of Andy Warhol, Barnett Newman, and Richard Serra. Bennett's large-scale silkscreen prints and paintings examine popular culture, America's governmental institutions, as well as historic and contemporary socio-political contradictions. By inserting undertold historical storylines into his artistic practice, Bennett catalyzes his art making as an opportunity to raise social consciousness regarding societal infirmities. Bennett's deeply held commitment to truth-seeking, intellectual enrichment, and non-traditional learning guide his creative process. It is here in the gallery where we are going to pause today and take a deeper look into Bennett's large-scale acrylic and silkscreen on canvas titled Mao Trump, created in 2018. Now, when you first look at this piece, you may recognize the main figure, but as you begin to look closer, you may notice some things are off. So the first portrait one might recognize is the official portrait of Chairman Mao that was created in the 1970s. So this was the image that was one of the most popular images of him that was widely distributed in the 1970s. But then as you look a little bit further, some facial features might seem a little uncharacteristic. By creating this print originally in 2016, prophetically, Bennett predicted the results of the 2016 US presidential election and its resulting state of affairs. By combining the portraits of Donald Trump and Chairman Mao, Bennett provides commentary on the stark similarities and how the two have harnessed the power of personal image. Both repeatedly positioned their countenances in propagandized media to push their political agendas. When first creating the series in 2016, Bennett reiterated that, quote, regardless of how the election turns out or whoever you plan on voting for, or simply rooting to win, it doesn't matter. These paintings have done just what I intended them to do. They've made people feel, and that's all I could ever hope for, end quote. Now, to unpack this piece a little bit more, there's a lot to unravel, and I want to give you some more of the art historical context to what we're looking at here. So let's back up a little bit. And when you walk into the Western Gallery and you see this within the context of the exhibition, you'll notice to the left, there's a series of Chairman Mao portraits that are actually original Andy Warhol prints made in the 1970s. So let's look at these really quickly. So these are owned by the Western Gallery. They belong in our collection. And the original series, there's actually 10, but because of the nature of this exhibition and where they were fitting, we decided to just have 6 of them on display in relationship to Knowledge's Trump Mao series. But as you can see, Bennett was very much influenced by Andy Warhol in this series, along with other work in his series. So who is Andy Warhol and why is he important in relationship to Knowledge's Mao Trump? So many of you may know the term pop art, which is where Andy Warhol has become most well known in the art historical canon. So pop art is art that has drawn inspiration from sources in popular and commercial culture. And Warhol was deeply fascinated by celebrity and branding, which manifested in many of his brightly colored prints and paintings. For example, the Campbell's soup cans that some of us have seen, or the Share a Coke series, or one of the most well-known series are his series of Marilyn Monroe. So the Chairman Mao series, where does this come from and why did Andy Warhol decide to do this series? So Andy Warhol's dedication to all famous things, let's go to another image here. And here you can see the set, some more of the set that belongs in the Western Gallery as part of another exhibition that we had. Andy Warhol's dedication to all famous things in the world and his fascination of reproduction made Chairman Mao's ubiquitous presence a mesmerizing figure of his art. His portraits of Mao are undeniably among the most influential and enduring of all of his images. It was not until President Nixon's announcement of his impending visit to China in 1971 that Warhol began to imagine painting Chairman Mao. He even made the observation that, quote, "Since fashion is art now and Chinese is in fashion, I could make a lot of money. Mao would be really nutty not to believe in it. I'd just be fashion, but the same portrait you could buy in a poster store." End quote. A year later, he produced a series of Mao prints that today has become an icon to be found in many of the most prestigious art institutions and private collections around the globe. So in the 1960s and 70s, Warhol was committed to creating portraits of the most significant figures or important figures of the 20th century because he knew that is what was popular culture and that's what people were gravitating towards. So when considering to get back into portraiture, a friend of his actually suggested portraying Albert Einstein and relating that to his theory of relativity. But for Warhol, fame was more important than ideas. Appearance was more important than importance itself. More than the individual, it was the mechanism of fame itself that fascinated Warhol, to the degree to which fame consumes creativity by repeating one and the same image to be a point of banality. In 1972, this Mao series of 10 prints were based on the official portrait of Mao from the cover of his Little Red Book. The Little Red Book contained quotes from Mao and was considered the cornerstone of the Maoist ideology. And here's a picture to give you some context when I'm talking about images and propaganda. Here is the exact portrait that Andy Warhol appropriated to create his portraits of Mao from the images that were already being used as propaganda for Mao in the 1970s. So what does it mean to take an image that's already copied and placed everywhere and then create it your own? So, creating these series for Warhol and then recreating it and changing the colors, how does that change the message? What does that manipulate in this work in the end? So fast forward a little bit, with Warhol's fascination, Here he is, he eventually visited 10 years after making the series. He went to China and was able to stand in front of one of the examples of this portrait. And yes, Andy Warhol had crazy hair. Sometimes he had it painted silver, or he had a silver wig, really interesting. So going back to the connection of these two pieces, the screen prints by Warhol, the multiplicity, is reminiscent of mass-produced propaganda posters, which were widely displayed in China under Mao's rule. The creation of these glamorous portraits turned Mao into a pop icon, much like Warhol's other celebrity portraits. Now, when we go back to Knowledge's portrait, he's taken Chairman Mao as the frame and then has decided to manipulate it to create a more historical layer and connect it to today's audiences. So what does that mean? You know, there's something to consider and take away. How does the political context of these images impact how we understand them? How do the unique histories of each of these portraits impact how we understand them? And what do portraits mean? Holding on to history, just like we take selfies and we take pictures of each other, what does it mean to then take a widely known image and recreate it in your own way, add your own color, and manipulate it? What does that mean for an artist? So these are some points to consider as you look through these, ask more questions, consider what these works mean. I think there's a lot of political charge to these works, but surprisingly, Knowledge was not really interested in the political heightenedness of these works. He was more so interested in creating imagery that speaks to the masses, that speaks to so many people, as we all can build some understanding of what the different layers of these portraits mean to each of us. And as I finish up, I just want to remind you that this was some education related to our exhibition at the Western Gallery. There's some more information on the Facebook post if you'd like more information. You can also go to our website at the Western Gallery, and there's my information circled for you. My name's Tami, and I am the museum educator at the Western Gallery. And it has been a pleasure to be with you today. I hope this has been interesting, brought new ideas, enlightened you in some way, and I hope that we can continue learning and sharing together through art.